Asia Wilson, and I just said, well, my goodness, maybe there is no hope for this league because these players are berserk. I mean, out of their ever-loving minds, and if that's the way they look at white players or white people, oh, okay, wow. I mean, privilege? Somebody is good, and they're made the WNBA because of white privilege? Are you kidding me?
Looking back at what went down with Asia Wilson a little while ago, it remains one of the more wild moments the WNBA has produced in recent memory. Wilson, the star center out of Las Vegas, found herself at the center of a massive firestorm after a video surfaced of her making some pretty bold statements about white players in the league. The footage spread everywhere almost overnight, landing somewhere around 25 million views, and the response was almost entirely negative. What Wilson said, broken down to its simplest form, was that white players in the WNBA got to where they were because of their skin color.
Caitlin Clark can outball, what, every player in the league? Essentially on any given night? In her rookie year. My God, but she got there because of white privilege. Nah, not hard work or any of that. By the way, Asia Wilson's getting completely crushed into the dirt over this. The clip has went mega viral, 25 million views on it.
She pointed to players like Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, Kelsey Plum, and Paige Buevers as examples, suggesting that their success had more to do with the advantages they were born with than any amount of talent or hard work. She even went as far as framing the whole thing as something positive, saying that when someone points out that a white player benefits from these kinds of advantages, it should be seen as a kind of honor rather than an attack. Most people watching didn't see it that way at all. To almost everyone paying attention, what she called a compliment was actually an insult, plain and simple.
And she's getting absolutely destroyed. In case you don't know this, the Las Vegas Aces, they're in a downward spiral straight down the toilet. Seriously. So here's the clip right here that I'm talking about. And wow, I mean, I guess Caitlin Clark should Sabrina Ionescu and Kelsey Plum and Paige Buevers and Caitlin Clark, should they just all, is there a reparations fund in the WNBA? Is that where we're...
The way she sat there and delivered the whole thing with a straight face, while other players were right there listening, made it even harder to swallow. The backlash was immediate and came from everywhere. Fans, fellow athletes, commentators, and regular people across social media all piled on. A massive chunk of the criticism zeroed in on the sheer hypocrisy of the whole situation.
We're at... If I'm Caitlin Clark, I'm seriously considering finding an investor. Go to Elon Musk. Find an investor, team up, and start a legitimate basketball league that wants to focus on actual basketball. And with your name and that backing, or whatever backing you can find, get away from these players. Because you got to wonder, I mean...
Here was Wilson, a player who spent most of her younger years attending a small, expensive private school, growing up with both parents in the house, talking about how someone else had it easy because of where they came from. And the player she seemed to be taking the biggest shots at, Paige Buevers, actually grew up in a much tougher spot. Buevers was raised by a single father and attended a regular public high school. The gap between Wilson's background and the background of the person she was criticizing was so wide that it almost seemed like something out of a bad comedy sketch.
Are we talking about, I mean, a target on the court every single night of these ladies and Caitlin Clark's career? The reason is Caitlin Clark has not bent the knee on this, and we'll see.
Paige Buevers! Us as black women, Paige reminds me a lot of you. Like, you say you're not really about me, and she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point, and also, like, she's good at basketball, obviously.
You really could not have written it any better if you were trying to make the whole thing look ridiculous. A lot of black fans and commentators were actually among the loudest voices calling Wilson out for it, which said something about how far off base the comments were seen to be. Then there was the Caitlin Clark situation, which was really the engine behind the whole conversation. Clark had just broken into the league as a rookie and was immediately one of the most exciting players to watch on any given night.
Understands her privilege, it's like pushes her over the top in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you. And I mean, that's a compliment.
Anytime anybody says, and that's a compliment, It's not a compliment. That's an insult. It's kind of like the whole DEI thing. You know, if you're a person of color and you get awarded a job because they're trying to fill a quota, doesn't that feel dirty to anybody? Like, seriously? You're just good?
The numbers spoke for themselves. When Clark was on the court, viewership went through the roof. When she wasn't, or when someone like Wilson was the main draw, the audience dropped off sharply. Reports at the time suggested that around 450,000 people were following Wilson closely as a fan base, while the remaining 2.5 million fans who had been tuning in for Clark simply turned the channel off when she wasn't playing. Wilson apparently believed she was just as marketable as Clark, which a lot of people found pretty disconnected from what was actually happening.
Good, open arms. I'll just take it. Give me the hand-me-downs. I'm good. Wow. I never want to do anything unless, or get awarded anything unless I feel like I've earned it. What? This is nuts. If you hear a compliment, it's never a compliment. Exactly right. Perfect. The beginning thing. Just a phrase to frame one's comments is positive.
Some people even brought up the idea that Clark had a target on her back every single night because she refused to bend to the pressure and just kept playing her game. The sponsorship world told a completely different story. Clark was pulling in serious money and landing major brand deals. Wilson, despite being one of the league's top talents on paper, had never managed to land anything close to a signature shoe deal before all of this blew up.
Those comments are so toxic, I just can't even believe it. I mean, that was a compliment? Yeah, exactly. That face. What the hell? I saw this clip and I couldn't believe it. Asia grew up to a private school, and she was talking about someone else's privilege. The shit is so toxic. The irony is that Asia grew up privileged and with both parents.
The explanation most people landed on was straightforward. Clark was someone audiences genuinely liked and wanted to support. Wilson had made herself very hard to root for over time. Being likable matters, especially when you are trying to build a brand, and Wilson had spent a long stretch of time making that nearly impossible. The comments also kicked off a wider debate about where the WNBA was actually headed.
Well, Caitlin Clark is doubling down on her comments. Let's unwind it all right now. This is what Cheryl Miller said yesterday.
Like, really, really excited till I found out that the team I'm coaching wants to beat the brakes off our Olympic team. I'm like, okay, the pressure's on. So now we got a game, folks. We're going to have a game, but it's been fantastic.
It's heard from Cheryl Miller, and she just said, and I quote, "This team wants to beat the brakes off the Olympic team." For you guys,
Someone drew a comparison to diversity hiring, pointing out that if a person of color got a job mainly because a company was trying to fill a slot, that wouldn't feel like a real achievement to most people. It would feel like getting handed something rather than earning it. The same logic, people argued, applied in reverse. Clark didn't get her spot in the league because of anything other than being one of the best players coming out of college basketball in years. A lot of observers started talking about how the league had been bleeding money for close to 27 years straight.
the Olympic team.
That was Cheryl Miller at the press conference before this game, and she let it be known, bruh, they want to beat the brakes off for them. Well, Caitlin Clark was at the All-Star Game Skills Challenge yesterday, like I stated, sitting next to Las Vegas Aces star Asia Wilson, and she let it be known, we're going to destroy you. It's being reported that Caitlin Clark telling Asia Wilson team will get destroyed at WNBA All-Star event turning head. WNBA fans have finally made it to Saturday, which means
the argument was that moments exactly like this one were a significant part of the problem. The sport kept getting buried under layers of social commentary and public fights among the players themselves. Some people described the WNBA around that time as less of a basketball league and more of an ongoing online argument that happened to have a few games mixed in. Players weren't just missing shots on the court, they were missing the point entirely when it came to keeping audiences interested in the actual game.
which means the highly anticipated All-Star game is taking place later this evening. Among the many reasons fans are excited is that rookie Caitlin Clark is playing on the WNBA team, who is facing the Team USA squad that will be headed off to Paris next week for the Olympics. Given that both teams boost the world's best female basketball players, the game is sure exciting. Friday night was when the WNBA All-Star Game skills competition was. The three-point contest, 3-on-3 exhibition, and Team USA Olympic squad.
The Las Vegas Aces were also sliding downhill around that same stretch. The team that had recently been sitting at the top of the league was in a noticeable decline, and Wilson's public statements weren't doing anything to help the franchise's reputation or keep fans showing up. The situation even led to some pretty serious suggestions about shaking up how women's professional basketball worked going forward. There was real talk about Caitlin Clark potentially walking away from the WNBA entirely and partnering with outside investors. Names like Elon Musk were floated.
And Team USA Olympic squad and top college players occurred. But one interaction between Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson stole the show. And guys, I'm telling you right now, Caitlin Clark was very serious about this, bro. She was smiling in A'ja Wilson's face, eating her popcorn, because she know she's about to put the beats on the whole damn team. Roll the footage.
I'm sorry. I like double kick this. I'm like, y'all eat. We tried.
Nothing concrete ever came out of those conversations, but the fact that people were seriously entertaining the idea said a lot about how far things had drifted from what the league was supposed to be about. It was also pretty well documented at that point that WNBA players had a complicated relationship with each other. Some said the level of tension between players in women's professional basketball was unlike anything seen in any other sport. Nobody turned on WNBA players quite like other WNBA players did. Wilson's remarks just added another thick layer on top of all of that.
Caitlin Clark told her to her face, dog, y'all are going to get destroyed. This is awesome. So Caitlin Clark definitely feel a type of way about being left off Team USA. I'm telling you right now, she ain't playing no games. Caitlin Clark is finna single-handedly put the beats on this Olympic team. Watch what I tell you. Moving on.
And the fact that she never walked any of it back or offered any kind of correction meant the whole thing just kept sitting there, unresolved, while the criticism kept piling up around her. In the end, this whole episode became a pretty sharp example of how one poorly thought-out moment could drag down not just a single player's reputation, but the credibility of an entire league that was still working to build itself up. The talent was there, the game was growing, and then something like this would come along and pull everything backward. A'ja Wilson's comments stayed in people's minds for a long time, not as something bold or brave, but as a clear sign of what happens when a public figure stops thinking about how their words actually land.
I tell you, moving on to another story. Caitlin Clark reflects back on Nike and give us a little update on her signature shoe. Caitlin Clark received a $28 million Nike deal, and we haven't heard nothing since Caitlin got the money. I just got to keep it real. Now, with all that being said, she spoke with reporters yesterday about Nike and what they mean to her. Let's roll the footage right now.
Obviously, Nike's been a tremendous partner and was a partner of mine through college and, deciding what I wanted to do professionally.
So back during the WNBA All-Star Weekend, there was a moment that basically everyone ended up talking about. Caitlin Clark had shown up to the skills competition and wound up sitting right next to A'ja Wilson from the Vegas Aces. What made the whole thing blow up was what Clark actually said to her face. She straight up told Wilson that her squad was about to get taken apart.
And, deciding what I wanted to do professionally, that's just the brand that I always wore as a kid. So, being able to be with them is a dream and, something I don't take lightly. And I'm not giving any teasers, though. I don't do that. So, wait and see. I don't know. And who knows? Maybe it'll come. Maybe it won't come.
That was Caitlin Clark letting it be known. She ain't letting nobody know. No teaser about her signature shoe. Only thing I could guess is that Caitlin Clark's shoe is more than likely going to look like Kobe's, bruh. That is the shoe that she has been wearing throughout this 2024 season.
No sugarcoating, no playing it cool. Clark was sitting there chomping on popcorn, looking Wilson dead in the eye, completely serious about the whole thing. Once the footage started making rounds, it spread fast. What made it even more interesting was the bigger picture behind it.
And I'm telling you, they is going to sell out of the racks, dog. Moving on to another story. So we all know the WNBA received a new media rights deal worth $2.2 billion. Now, what if I was to tell you Cheryl Miller went on air and on record yesterday stating that the WNBA need better negotiators because they have simply been lowballed in the case regarding the media rights deal. Now, we already know the next wave of stars that is coming in.
Clark had been left off Team USA heading into the Olympics, and that clearly stuck with her. So when the chance came to go up against that Olympic roster in the All-Star matchup, she wasn't about to let it pass without saying something. Cheryl Miller, who was running the national squad at the time, had already gone out and set the tone before the game even kicked off. At a press conference the day before, Miller made it pretty clear that her players were fired up and ready to put a beating on the Olympic group.